Podcast City Network.
Thank you for tuning in on this episode of The Everett Lee Show. But before we get on with the guest onto the program today, there's a couple things I do want to mention that you can help out with supporting The Everett Lee Show. If you're looking to start a podcast and already have a podcast and you're looking for an affordable podcasting hosting site, Podbean's your number one choice. Podbean offers statistics with in-depth analytics to manage your podcast needs. Use the promo code podbeam.com/pbsignup and get a free month off. That's podbeam.com/pbsignup to get a free month off and see why 1,500 episodes have been shared all over the world in the past 11 years with over 3,000 subscribers that have chose Podbeam as their number one hosting site. And if you're looking to get into advertising, Podbeam advertising, you'll get $100 off advertising when you sign up as a sponsorship over on podbeam.com/pro/pbsignup. That's podbeam.com/pro/pbsignup.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show.
Joining me back on the podcast for a second round here with myself, Everett Lee, is none other than color commentator and one of the voices of Tales from the Indies with Ripper Blackhart, Michael McCormick. Welcome back.
Yeah, my agent says that I had to do 2 of these, so I'm like when they sign to do the Marvel movies, where you don't just sign to do one, you do a couple of them. 4 or 5.
Damn.
I think it's like community service, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, come on. Community service coming on my show, man? Give me a fucking break.
I mean, you know. That's how I feel about doing Tales from the Indies sometimes. I think my community service is having to deal with Ripper.
Well, speaking of Ripper, since you brought him up, the last time you were on here, he watched and listened to the episode. I don't know which version he tuned into.
He's lazy, so whichever one was the easiest.
Yeah, probably the YouTube one. And he messaged me on some corrections, and he spoke with you
afterwards.
Yeah, can you clarify some of the some of the things, just to set the record straight?
I don't even remember. He told me that I told a couple of stories, and it was like I don't even remember what it was. It was something where I said a couple of wrong words, or I inverted part of the story, or some garbage thing, something only he would know. I'm trying to go back and find it, but I can't even remember. But yeah, it was 2 minutes in. He's like, "Hey, I'm not even very far into this, and I just want to point out to you that you screwed up a bunch of these stories." I was like, "Seriously? Leave me alone." So I waited for him. Good thing we had a handful of our own podcasts already in the can by that point, or he probably would have went on ours and started telling people how I screwed it up. Yeah, that's just how it is.
You gotta love Ripper, man. You gotta love Ripper. I had him on back, I believe it was last month, when I did that podcast block party, when I had Jimmy Baxter, Ripper Blackhart on. Ripper was last minute, man. Robin Nilsson was supposed to get on there, and in the last minute, Robin's like, "I can't do it." So I was like, "Damn, I need someone." And so I reached out to Ripper, and Ripper's like, "I should have been first choice." He drilled me for that, man.
Yeah, he said at 1:30 you asked him if he was free at 3.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What, do I seem like I have nothing going on?" I'm like, "Well, the man knows you." I mean, quite literally.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look back through. It's basically just our conversations are ridiculous of taking shots at Taz, or how other commentary is terrible, or, Batman. There's a lot of conversations about Batman.
Yeah, he's a Batman fan, and you can see the shirt I'm wearing too.
I have a bunch of these little pops now just for that reason.
I see that. Looks good from this angle here.
Yeah, my wife just laughs at me now. She's like, "I thought you were going to be one of those guys." Like, I didn't plan on it.
We never plan on being anything until we get into something.
Right. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'll only get Batman, and then I got like Michael Jordan, Freddie Mercury. I forget what a bunch of other random stuff, and like Indiana Jones, like stuff that I was a huge fan of as a kid.
Right.
And I realized that it would be impossible to get all the Batmen because there's legit like 240 of them.
Damn.
And it's just stupid things. Like one of them is yellow, one of them's pink. I mean, come on now. I guess I don't need all 240. I think I have like 10 or 12. I think I'm good for that.
Well, you got your favorite ones that you wanted,
right?
Correct? Okay, that's all that matters. That's all that matters, because there's some people out there that would get their favorite ones and collect those. Others would get all 240 of them.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I got a buddy, and shout out to Pop Drunk on Instagram. Ed and Heather have, I would say, a whole room that is nothing but pop figures all over their room, and then probably I think about half of his basement I think is that way.
Damn. I knew she mentioned they have a lot of pop figures. And Heather, you're talking about Heather Owens there.
Heather Owens, yep.
Heather Owens, she's great. She's great. I enjoy the show that she does with Jade, Best Friends podcast show. The conversations they have, really, really interesting, and just a great podcast there.
I found what I screwed up.
What's that?
I told a story about Virgil and Mr. Main Event during a show in Fremont, Ohio, and I screwed up. The punchline to that is that Mr. Main Event wanted Virgil to take Jake Roberts' DDT, and Virgil said, "No, give him my finisher, Power Slam."
Okay.
And that's the main one that he dinged me for. And then there was the comic book story we told about Paul London, and the guy tried to charge us. Jeff was the gentleman. He uses different words, but they tried to charge us $18 a piece.
Uh-huh.
And then there was Ripper never actually commentated at HWA. He was just there, and the ring was not six-sided. Those are the things that he seems to want me to clear up.
Okay.
So he can go to hell now. Because I cleared it up.
I enjoyed you popping in there last month during the podcast block party, the independent wrestling block party there.
I was just trying to throw him off.
Yeah. That was exciting, man. That definitely was exciting there, having everyone that jump in there and join that there. And in the back of my head, I kind of knew Robin may have back out, but I was just always convinced, like, nah, he's gonna show up. He's gonna show up, and stuff happens, and he didn't show up.
Yeah, real jobs are stupid.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how that goes.
Yeah, but Ripper, David C. Russell, and Jimmy Baxter, and then having J.J. McGuire come in, man. I asked J.J., I talked to him prior before it, and I said, this is what I'm doing here. Would you like to come in as a guest and just shoot the shit? And he's like, count me in, brother. I said, all right, this is time and date. But we kind of got screwed up on the time there, because I told him at 4 o'clock, and he thought it was going to be at 5 o'clock. So he scrambled around to get everything all ready and set up, and I pretty much got him set up on video, because he ended up getting a new phone, and he was like, how do you set up the video on this thing? And so I walked through it with him a couple days prior, and he set everything up, has new earphones in, wireless earbuds that he got, and he was all excited, ready to go and do this. So that pretty much was his actual first time with his new phone set up and his new earbuds and everything. So he was really excited about that, and it was just a great get together there. Just talk about what's going on with each of our areas with independent wrestling. And Ohio right now, you got it rough there up in Ohio, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a secret. I do sports for a living for my actual job, and between that and having no wrestling, it's it's kind of an odd time. I mean, I've gotten through doing baseball for the last month, kind of here and there, with some loose summer league stuff that's going on. But outside of that, I mean, it has been and apparently will be kind of slim pickings on what there is to do up here.
Right. I know the Ohio Athletic Commission, they're pretty much not letting really anything run.
Yeah, they hate everybody. So that's the other big thing is there's a bunch of pirate shows, and everybody's trying to get around it by doing empty arena, nobody there, and it's a mess. But yet, I know Indiana for sure. Some in I think Michigan, and then maybe one or two in like Kentucky are doing shows. So everybody's going from Ohio and working on these other shows, and then skirting around the 14-day quarantine, and it's pretty much just do whatever the hell you want.
Pretty much how it is down here in Florida right now. It's a mess down here. But the thing down here is you go into the hospital for hemorrhoids or a shotgun wound, they file you under COVID. And there was a lot of data that was miscalculated, and they had to go back. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's
Florida school system not real great, apparently.
No, it's not. Let's give all the teachers a raise. All right, you're going back. We're opening up the classes in 2 weeks.
I don't see anything sports or school wise in our future here in Ohio.
Yeah, I feel for you, man. I definitely feel for you. And the way things are going here with all these cases reported, that I'm surprised they haven't done a second shutdown yet.
Give it time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's only July.
When DeSantis here, the governor, when he talks, he reminds you of Kurt Angle. You know, what we're going to do here is we're going to open up the schools, and we're going to have all the children go back, and I want a freaking gold medal with a freaking broken neck. Just shut up, man.
I'm surprised that, people consistently go on vacation, and I love Las Vegas, and you could not pay me to be anywhere near Las Vegas right now with everything going on, and the mayor out there I think she might be unhinged. I mean, at this point, you really can't pay me to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Just no.
No. I know months ago you could get like a $20 plane ticket to Wuhan, China.
Right. You can get very cheap rooms in Myrtle Beach right now, and that's what everybody up here is doing. And I refuse to be anywhere near those people because it's just why? How is this the time where I get it, you've been sitting around for months? Trust me, I get that more than anyone.
Yeah.
But why you're just like, I'm gonna go on vacation? Well, the room's $30 a night. Okay, what is it normally? $300. You think there might be a reason? No, thank you.
Yeah. What's messed up here is we're actually all over the place. The freaking younger generation doing all this stuff here. They're popping. It's almost like they're popping Tide Pods, and let's see if we can get this virus. What a bunch of ass jackals! I hate to say that.
I mean, I'm not surprised by anything anymore. I'm just at that point where I'm just, you know what? Everyone is just going to do whatever, and I have my theories on us versus the rest of the world, and that we're much more materialistic and only really kind of care about what goes on in our day-to-day lives. But I don't know, man. It's just it's also insane. It's like a really bad movie.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It just won't end.
No, it won't. And we're halfway through the year already, and I'm like pretty much a lot of people. 2021, get here.
Well, we joke now about what every month is going to be. What's next month? Dolphins with shotguns? I mean, I think Ripper and I were doing that one day where we were just going back and forth trying to figure out, we got murder hornets. We got, have you seen the bear with the nunchucks?
No, I haven't seen that
You
yet.
gotta see that one. I'll see if I can find it. That's a meme that's going around as someone apparently gave a bear nunchucks at the zoo, and now we're screwed because now bears know how to use nunchucks.
Oh my goodness.
That's apparently he's the end of July. Like July's already taken, with murder hornets and everything else. But apparently August is that bear and nunchucks. He's just gonna take over the world.
What are we gonna have in October? Killer bees.
At this point, I don't even want to think about it. I don't know that we get to October by this point.
I hope so, because I'm really, in some ways, I am, and kind of not wanting to see 42. So, who knows?
I'm just gonna, whatever's next is next.
Mm-hmm.
President Kanye maybe can save us all.
or Dwayne Johnson. Check this out now.
I'd vote for The Rock at this point. I'll be honest with you.
I would too. But when he made that Instagram post, I knew what he was talking about. I get it. Well, I got my nephew and his friends who got the notion in their head that, oh, he's going to run. So I had to go do some digging. And I dug up some stuff he did a few years ago and talked about in Rolling Stone magazine. And I sent that to them because they made this post of Dwayne Johnson 2020, and they're all, I was reading the comments all, we're trying to tag Kevin Hart in it, trying to get the Kevin Hart, this is funny and stuff. And I basically put it in there as like, he's not running. Well, he probably might. It was like, no, he said he's not running, as like he would run in the future, but not now. And yeah, a lot of people, if he did run now, a lot of people would vote for him.
They say he's the third most backed candidate.
Yeah.
According to Odds Checker.
Yeah, he would be. He would be the third most backed candidate, and a lot of people. Yeah, you imagine.
I'm not even surprised.
you imagine him taking care of world crisis. Him cutting a promo on a renegade country or something. He's in a labor.
Imagine him walking into NATO and just rock bottoming everybody. Like the UN, like they ain't got shit on him.
Yeah, he just has to get on people's eyebrow and they'll back off.
In Dwayne we trust.
Yep.
He's been a Marine on 2 different occasions, so I guess he's got that going for him.
Yeah. He's climbed skyscrapers. He's giant. He's wrestled and battled giant animals. He was Hercules.
Right. He a giant alligator. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Dwayne Johnson. This is The Rock we're talking about, man.
Between budget crises and stuff, he would just be making movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't the guy from Ballers, really? What else? I don't know.
Yeah.
Be the first president sponsored by Under Armour. How's this happening?
What'd be crazy is they come to him about the budget, and they're trying to, do the budget there, and he's like, and what is your name? It doesn't matter what your name is. Know your role and shut your mouth.
Apparently he's in a Tom and Jerry movie that's coming out, though. I didn't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Speaking of movies, I've fallen off the wagon there on knowing what's coming out, what's not, what's delayed.
Nothing is coming out.
Yeah.
Nothing. I was excited. I actually just figured this one out about an hour ago. My wife just looked at me like I was crazy. Ghostbusters is on AMC right now, the original one, the good one.
Yeah.
And I was stoked because Ghostbusters Afterlife was supposed to come out about 10 days ago, and now it doesn't come out till March. And then Christopher Nolan's movie Tenet, which I've been super stoked about for a while, is delayed until who knows when. So, movie.
Talk about next year, right?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's going out.
Yeah. Bunch of movies are delayed for next year. And actually, if you look at it this way, back in May, the 9th Fast and Furious movie is supposed to come out.
Great. More money for President Rock.
But I only have one problem with that. I can't see who Vin Diesel's fighting as the villain.
Right, some guy. I don't even know who that is. I thought it was supposed to be John Cena, but apparently can't see him.
Yeah, you can't see him. Damn.
Yeah, I'm a big movie guy, and I'm super sad that I get you can't do things, whatever, but a lot of the movies we finally got into a cycle where we've broken away from just straight up remakes, and I say that as someone who's stoked about Ghostbusters, but at least it's an original idea, and the premise of what is it? Egon's grandkid finds all the stuff in Oklahoma for some reason, even though the movies all happen in New York, and brings it back, and Aykroyd is in it, and I don't know. I like that they were able to, after 30 years, figure something out, and not just, hey, we're just going to do a shot-for-shot remake. I forget what I just watched recently that was like that. It was quite literally shot for shot for shot for an hour and 40 minutes.
Damn.
I thought, why? Why'd you do that? And again, Ripper and I talk about this all the time because we're super nerds. But Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
With Kurt Russell is a movie from the 80s I absolutely adore. And my dad, it was one of his favorite movies. They're going to supposedly remake that. And I just, some of the TV shows the other day, I love Married with Children. And I was thinking, like, man, he can't make this show again. Like,
No.
you can't even... they censored one of the Golden Girls episodes, so you can't do anything at this point.
No, you pretty much can't. One thing when I was on furlough before I went back to work, one day I was moving stuff around in my house, and I disconnected and moved my cable and internet across the room. Well, apparently one of the things I moved that I wasn't supposed to move, I ended up having to call the cable company out. And they came out the following day, like late that day. But that night we had no internet, no cable. So I ended up pulling out my Blu-ray DVD collection, and I started going through it, looking. And I had a box set of the Gangster collection. So it's a cool collection. It has like 4 movies in there. It has Scarface, Carlito's Way, Casino, and American Gangster. So I've never seen Carlito's Way, so I sat down and watched it that night, and I loved it. Then afterwards, I watched American Gangster with Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe. Badass movie, man. Badass, based off a true story. Loved that movie. And then I got my cable turned back on. So I was sitting there, I'm like, what am I going to watch? So I ended up watching 1917. That was pretty damn good.
Yeah,
man.
I liked it. There were parts of it, I think, where they kind of took some liberties on some things, but to speed it up for pacing. But overall, I thought it was good. I mean, I didn't think it was I love Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
And I didn't think everybody compared it to that and said, oh my God, it's so much better. I didn't think so, but
No.
maybe I have a soft spot for Saving Private Ryan, and I like the storyline. I just there were some things where I'm like, all right, I've seen this shot this way already, and I'm a nerd. I mean, I look at kind of the cinematography way that they do things and go, why would they shoot that this way? Like, why didn't they?
Yeah.
And my wife's like, just watch the damn movie. Okay.
Tell me if you noticed this. The way the movie opened up was the way it closed too.
Yeah, they went lost on that.
Yeah.
Like the way that opens up before all the polar bears and the ridiculous goblins and things. I like Lost. It's just after you watch the first season, you're like, let me just skip through. But there's a lot of those. Like, I love the show Dexter, but you could easily skip probably at least the last 2.5 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's 9, and I think if you stop after 6, you'll be happy because you won't have to deal with all the nonsense.
Right.
I couldn't get through the main character having relations with his TV sister in real life and them being married. I couldn't do it. I realize that's not Hollywood, but I don't know. It's kind of odd.
Yeah.
It makes the show weird for me.
Well,
And he's killing people.
yeah. One other movie I did watch was Ford vs. Ferrari.
I have not seen that yet.
No.
Uh-uh.
Pretty damn good story. Pretty damn good story. I mean, Christian Bale, he was great in it, and
After he got tired of playing Batman.
yeah,
Yet.
he's one of my favorite method actors. He is. I've seen him do in some
Minus
movies.
He's like, I didn't want anybody to know who Batman was. Okay.
Yeah. But
Right.
it kind of became, it's like people now when they think of Batman, they do think of that there is that rough gravel voice of his there. I loved his performance in Ford vs. Ferrari. Matt Damon, he was great too, and John Bethel, I think I'm pronouncing his name wrong, who played the Punisher on Netflix Marvel's.
John Bernthal. Yeah.
Yeah, Berthal. Yeah, he was in it too. All three of them did great in that movie. And the movie's long, but in some cinematography shots was done really great with when they're on the track racing and everything, which I thought was really great and stuff. But
Josh is in it too, and I love Josh Lucas. I think he's terrific.
yeah, he was in it there too. And speaking of John there, I never did finish watching the Marvel Netflix shows. Yeah.
The only one worth it is the Punisher, really.
Well-
Daredevil.
Well, this is what I did. I started. I finished Luke Cage. I was like season 2. I was only like 3 or 4.
2 episodes in and said no.
I finished the last 4 episodes of season 2, and then I jumped over, watched season 2 at Iron Fist, and then I jumped over and finished. I couldn't get through the first season of Punisher, so where I left off, I picked back up, and then I was like, wow, the rest of the first season was pretty damn great. I loved that story there. Then watching season 2, I watched the trailer for season 2. I'm like, oh, I got all hyped up, but I felt disappointed because I felt like they focused too much time on Jigsaw. They focused too much time on him and not enough time on Pilgrim. I mean, the 3rd episode when they're in the police station there, oh, dude, that was just freaking great, man.
I thought the problem was that they were going to do more. Like they were giving you Jigsaw because he was going to be part of a bigger 3, 4, and 5 season character arc. But of course, the Disney thing and everything went to hell after that. But I mean, I could have done without the parts of it. I think that led up more to the Defenders. Like each one of them got a handful of their second or third seasons, however, of leading into the Defenders, and then the Defenders was just kind of like, okay, well, you screwed this up. But I don't like Jessica Jones either, so that's probably part of it.
Oh, I like Jessica Jones. I
didn't like it at all.
The first season, I loved that. I loved the first season. Second season, the first half of it, I thought it was good, and the second season kind of dropped off there. The third season, the first half of it, I'm like, I'm just not getting it. But then when I actually looked at the second part of that third season there, I was like, she developed more into a character than what she did before, because before she was more of a hothead. She learned to control, and she wasn't dealing with a superhuman. She was dealing with a smart freaking serial killer, which I thought was really good because, I mean, the mouse and cat game right there, I thought was really great between both of them, because she thought he was up on him, and then he was always coming out on top, of one up, finding something there. And her sister there, man, jeez, she went off the freaking rails, didn't she?
Well, I'm at the point now where I'm just mad because I got to have 87 streaming platforms to make sense of anything. Peacock just opened, and I want to see the new Psych movie, but I don't want another streaming service.
Right.
I already have Hulu and Netflix and Apple TV and Disney and whatever. I mean, like all the indie channels, and Like, this is enough. I remember 2 years ago when I just had one streaming service, and I only paid one fee, and it was like $8.
Yep.
Let's go back to that. And a network that I'm paying for, getting disappointing matches out of.
Definitely. I do want to mention this right here. I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive more into the conversation right here. But first, there's a couple things I do want to mention. Since 1995, HighSpots.com has grown to be the company it is by serving the wrestling fans throughout the world with a great selection of merchandise. HighSpots.com has everything a wrestling fan could want, including the latest WWE and TNA releases, classic wrestling merchandise, and their HighSpots.com exclusive releases. HighSpots.com is the leading online retailer for professional wrestling and mixed martial arts, offering autographs, figures, DVDs, apparel, wrestling gear, and even wrestling rings. Their largest clients include WWE, Impact Wrestling, ROH, and AEW. Click on the High Spots logo on the Everett Lee Show page over on podcasty.net to order. Whether you are a wrestling fan, pro wrestler, or promoter, you can find what you're looking for at highspots.com. If you grew up as a kid in the 1980s or just a fan of 1980s pop culture, then ADTs is for you. ADTs sells a huge variety of licensed t-shirts featuring characters, movies, TV shows, video games, and music stars from the 1980s through today. They also have great costumes from 80s pulp culture too. ADTs.com sells officially licensed pulp culture t-shirts. As you might guess, their focus is on the 1980s, but do sometimes sell other cool pulp culture related tees. 80s Tees has been in business since 2000, meaning they like retro 80s stuff too before it was cool. Follow the link provided in the description section of this episode for more. 80stees.com.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show.
Speaking of that right there, when you hit me up out of the blue there the other night and you asked me about a new platform. You were looking to move Tales from the Indies off of one platform hosting to another one. And you're like, you know any? I'm like, yes, I do. And I hooked you up there with Podbean. And we started talking there. And I was sitting there typing, and I'm like, I got to call you. I can't type this all out, man. So we talked there for a minute and asking, hey, what's going on? And we were watching Extreme Rules there, which was just horrible pay-per-view, man.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I say it all the time. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm down as a whole on wrestling or what, but like WWE is not fun to me right now as a fan, and that's whether I'm a very small part. Like, I mean nothing in the wrestling business, but I just, like, I don't understand how you have all this talent and you only use like 6 guys, and then you're just giving away titles because you can't. And I get you're limited that you can't use certain guys because they're out with COVID and everything, but just I don't even know how to describe it. But you're gonna tell me that you're gonna book a match where I'm supposed to believe that one of the characters on the show is going to legitimately win a match by ripping the other guy's eye out. And the thing is, the match was fine until that they get to the ending.
Yeah.
You get within about 3 or 4 minutes before the ending, and it starts to go to hell. And I'm just, okay, how are they going to do this? And then the pull away and the vomit, and it was just too much. I mean, between that and WWE hit a home run, in my opinion, with the cinematic matches at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But after that, you could tell that somebody had too much input with the Bray Wyatt one this time around.
Yeah,
because it was just, I thought that the one false finish of having the logo come up and then having it go on was neat, but I didn't need it to go for 5 minutes after that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that just got me there because it started into something and then it just went to hell. It became a shit show. It did. It became a shit show there. The match with Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler with the stipulation, "Oh, I get to be extreme. You don't." Yeah, it was like a little kid, like I get some ice cream, you don't. Nah, 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 nah. That's how it felt like, and it's like, really? One person can use extreme rules, but the other person can't. If they do, they get disqualified. It's like, I'm taking your toy away if you put me through a table.
Right, and I saw somebody say, he could have said that stipulation was, I got to hit you with a flaming arrow from a crossbow, and he still wouldn't have believed that McIntyre was losing that match.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen on a B pay-per-view. I mean,
nah.
I think that's just the problem. That maybe I don't know if it's because the older I've gotten, or I'm jaded with being around wrestling or the people that I'm around or whatever, but I try to shut my brain off and just enjoy things, but sometimes it's hard. And I don't know if because it's newer, that's why I enjoy AEW more. I've always been a huge New Japan fan. I'm shocked at the title change that New Japan just did, but I'm curious to know what they do with it, because everybody's complaint is always, for any wrestling, is new blood. We don't want to see Randy Orton against John Cena for the 5 millionth time. We don't want to see Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior for the 50th time, whatever it is. But, I mean, New Japan put a belt on a guy that less than 24 hours, they flipped into a different faction for no particular reason whatsoever. There was no build-up. They just did it out of the blue, and then all of that comes full circle the next night. Wow, okay. Well, the problem is nobody saw it, because when Impact Wrestling got Access TV, they got rid of New Japan. Well, now New Japan has their own streaming service, but there's no build up to it. It was just bam. I don't know. That's awesome, but it blows me away.
Right. Do you watch Impact, or you keep up with Impact Wrestling?
I have a DVRing right now, and I'm really curious. I watched the pay-per-view the other night.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Parts of it I didn't hate, like anything. My thing about Impact is I feel like sometimes the guys booking it are maybe too smart for their own good. And I know Scott D'Amore is a very smart dude.
Yeah.
But you have Callahan and Ken Shamrock who are feuding, or aren't, or I don't know. Lose to the North. Ethan Page, I love Ethan Page. Got to do a bunch of his matches early in his career. I love the concept of the North, that they're just swarmy dickheads. They don't really care. They're the high school jocks. They don't really care about anything but winning. You do a lot of the surprises, and a lot of that ends up being the WWE guys. You bring in the Good Brothers, Anderson and Gallows, but you don't really have them do anything until the very end. They show up and save Eddie Edwards, who you put the belt on in a 5-man match for some reason. And and not as a disrespect to them, but I don't think they have a credible world champion right now. And I think there's a reason why. I feel like they're going to hotshot that belt. But you don't have a credible world champion right now because all the guys in it were X Division guys. It just felt like an X Division match Moose and Tommy Dreamer was a TNA title match. It kind of felt bigger than the actual title match. You bring back Eric Young, but you put, all these guys in it that they're not going to win. And I went into that match going, who the hell are they going to book to win this match? Because none of these guys are long-term world champs.
Right.
Whatever the hell that means now. And again, that goes back to I'm sort of jaded, but
Yeah.
the one surprise I love, they do an open challenge with, I think it was the Rascals and the Motor City Machine Guns answer the challenge, and that's one of my all-time two favorite tag teams.
Mm-hmm.
I love Alex Shelley and I love Chris Sabin, but they win. Now they get a tag title shot tonight on Impact. It's Tuesday night as we were talking about this, and I'm excited to watch. Like for the first time in a while, I'm excited to watch Impact to see how that goes. And then you bring back EC3. I think if they do it right, he's the guy that ends up as the centerpiece.
Yeah.
And I mean, credit to them. Their social media was higher than it's been in a long time. They were trending, because that's all you care about. But more people bought the pay-per-view, whatever. Now, I watch it anyways just because I know a lot of those guys, or that I've gotten to work with a lot of those guys. But now I'm watching it of, holy shit, EC3, the Good Brothers, and the Machine Guns are on it. In addition to Sammy's on it, and Rahit Raju or Hakeem Zayn is on it, and all these guys, Jake something, all these guys that I'm a huge fan of on a personal level. Oh man, now you're actually going to make me watch the show to watch the show.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's cool they got EC3 back because, I mean,
he's got an amazing promo. Look at Twitter. He's blowing up Twitter.
He was good as they started to build him back when he was in NXT, and then they move up main roster, and like everything else, they crap on him. They took a shit on him, and him back in Impact, he had a pretty good run when he was back in Impact. Him and Eric Young, man, Sanity. I loved that. I loved what they did, and then they brought him up, and then of course they shit on him, and then they do nothing with him. Eric Young was the freaking champion, for God's sake.
He's got a weird back tattoo, though, now.
Yeah.
His whole back is done. It's like a weird dragon or some shit. But EC3, by the way, is an Ohio boy, just to point that out.
Yeah.
Just to throw out that there's another big Ohio guy, on the main scene. And you don't realize how many of those there are. Also, just happens to be one who's AEW champ. Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
I'm proud of that, just to be able to see those guys. And it goes to show how good indie wrestling in Ohio is, and Indiana and Michigan, and some in Kentucky. But I don't think people realize that. All these big promotions have either a creative guy or half the TNA Impact Wrestling women's rosters from Ohio. Because you've got Havoc, you've got Nevaeh, you've got Madison Rain. I know there's another one. And then half the roster now is from the state of Ohio. So that's cool to me on kind of a smaller nerdy level to be able to see all those guys that I've seen bust their ass for years in, bingo halls in Fremont, Ohio with 20 people in it. I saw Johnny Gargano one time, and I think I told the story before, but, he was in a stretcher match, and it was in an American Legion in Fremont, Ohio, and there were not even 50 people there.
Damn.
And him, a guy named Starless, busted their ass, and we just sat there in awe watching it. And I think trying to think who else was on that card. Frankie Kazarian, maybe. There was somebody else on that card that's like a huge star now, and we just marveled, we just saw that, and there's only 50 people here. Now you see Johnny Gargano, and he's NXT. I mean,
yeah.
It's just cool. That's the connection. It's like being a pro sports fan and seeing your minor league guys come up and just continue to hit 350 every year.
Right. Wasn't there some former WWE talent that did show up? Heath Slater, and then one woman that was in NXT. Damn, I can't think of her name there.
Well, you got Deanna Peraza now as the champ.
Yeah, that's who. Yeah.
That whole thing. I don't understand any of what they did with that, but that's just me. I don't know. I get weird about, and I don't have anything to do with it as far as booking, understanding. But I've had some bookers explain some things to me about as far as how you kind of book forward, backward. You start with a point in the future and then work your way to now. And I don't think that move has as much hype as they think it does.
Right.
I mean, read the internet.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Yeah, I just after WrestleMania this year, I stopped watching like Raw and SmackDown. I watched the pay-per-views. I watched Money in the Bank, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on. I watched Backlash. I'm like, oh, what the hell's going on? Even Sunday night when I watched Extreme Rules, I pretty much knew or kind of knew what was going on. And I didn't even have to watch. I didn't even have to watch Raw and SmackDown because pretty much the pay-per-views kind of fill in the spots right there. So I pretty much don't have to watch that. I don't have to sit through 3 hours of hell for myself there. And then on Friday nights and Wednesday nights, on and off, I've been watching NXT and AEW. I've been going back and forth. I got a dual monitor setup, so one side I got NXT going on. The other side I got AEW. And I'm just sitting back with a bowl of popcorn, just sitting there watching it and stuff, going back and forth, flipping back. I was like, this is, to me, Monday Night Wars 2.0.
Well, and I watch them both on DVR because I hate commercials. Like, I'm that impatient guy where I'll find something to do until 10 o'clock. And I always watch AEW first. To me, and again, this is just my personal thing as a fan, it's an easier watch. It's more fun to me. And again, that could go back to, a lot of the performers I'm more connected with versus some of the younger guys. I like the Keith Lee thing that WWE did with NXT a couple weeks ago of finally having him vanquish Adam Cole. But I feel like that was going to be a pay-per-view thing.
Yeah.
And with everything going on, that they kind of, I don't want to say they cheated him of his moment because he got it, but they sort of had to rework it. The guy who tweeted the picture of it cheated him of his moment. But, what are you going to do? You got all these people cooped up, and you're going to try to police them for 12 hours, and it's not always going to work. But, no, I'm interested to see, like, I love Undisputed Era because I always love one random jerk heel faction, no matter what it is. But I don't necessarily always like the face ones. I think it's just you can't get away. And Ripper's told this story numerous times, and I've heard it from so many guys where it is harder to be a babyface and have people like you than it is to be a heel and have them hate you. Now, Steve Austin's a perfect example.
Yeah.
He can go out and do the exact same stuff every week. But depending on how you framed the character that's on the other side, and again, I always go back to Ripper because as far as like War Wrestling, the last decade and a half, Ripper has always been, you want to get a guy over as a bad guy, put him with Ripper. You want to get a guy over as a good guy, have him be on the other side. And that's just a connection that you make. He's been that guy of, God, we hate that guy. Everett's with him? No, we hate that guy too. Oh, he's on the other side? No, we love that guy. Why? Because he's going to beat Ripper's ass.
Right.
And more times often than not, it tends to happen, and that's why Ripper's been shaved bald at 2 pay-per-views.
Right.
Well, one of the reasons.
He's a great mouthpiece, man. He's a great mouthpiece.
Like, he gets it. He doesn't care. And that's what's funny is, we talk about managers all the time that it's not like I'm old enough now that wrestling for me started in the 80s. And I remember, Bobby Heenan would go out, and he's not trying to get you to cheer him. He wants you to boo him. He doesn't want you to come out and buy his merchandise.
Right.
The MJF said that, and we touched on this a little bit last time where I want to be the dickhead heel that you chase into the parking lot. I want to have to get into my car or have to run 3 blocks with my stuff to get out of the building because you hate me. I don't want to be the cool guy who you come up to with intermission and go, man, I hate you. Here's $20. Give me a shirt.
Yeah.
Plus, nobody's going to buy a Ripper Blackhart shirt anyways.
Yeah.
Even his wife didn't buy one.
Well, speaking of Bobby Heenan here, I've jumped in. I briefly mentioned this to you the other night when I talked with you. I've jumped into what you do with doing commentary. I was
Whole
approached.
different world.
Yeah, whole different. I'm learning that too, and I'm learning things here and there as I go along with a veteran who's been around 20 plus years, and he's been helping me along the way. He's been filling in right now with me while I'm doing this because Chris Carnage was ill. He ended up getting COVID-19, and he got through it. He lived, and he was able to get back to work. But a lot of other things, situations going on with family, and he's pretty much handling that. So the remainder things that we were supposed to commentary on, he's not able to do. However, George Black has been able to fill in with me for the remainder episodes of Knockout TV for Knockout Wrestling. I was approached. Me and Chris Carnage was approached by the owner and promoter Nicholas Vick about a partnership with Podcasting Network and some stuff doing for Knockout Wrestling, which would be Double Down with Everett Lee. That right there. The first episode debuted, I think, weeks ago on their Facebook page and on their YouTube channel. And then the second episode is already at the office there at Knockout. Just don't know when they're going to debut that. And then the first two episodes in Knockout TV with myself and George Black doing commentary. The first episode's been put out. I don't know when the second episode is, but today, me and George sat down with me, and pretty much we wrapped up episode 3 and 4 doing commentary today. I got up freaking 6:30 this morning, drank my coffee, woke up, shower, shave, and what I pretty much I call my morning is like how I get ready. What do you do when you get up in the morning? Shower, shave. That's pretty much what I do. And then I hit the road. I had to drive through Orlando. God, I hate Orlando. I fucking hate Orlando. I hate it. Gotham City. If you want to know what a real life version of Gotham City is, Orange County, Florida. If you want to rape, murder, get away with anything, go to Orange County because that's where you could do all the crime at right there. If they need to basically take Orange County in Florida and cut it off and basically like make it like, you know, the story in Batman where they took Gotham and cut it off from the rest of the world. That's what they need to do to Orange County because all the bad shit. If you want to do any of that stuff, go to Orange County because that's where you do it at here in Florida. I had to go through there, and I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, I'm going through Gotham City right now. I'm going through Gotham, lock the doors, and pretty much went over to George's house there, and me and him sat down and dropped some commentary on episode 3 and 4. And I don't know when those will be released, but that's pretty much done and in the bag. And came back home and pretty much went through and looked at the stuff that we did today before I have to send out there to the production guy from Knockout Wrestling. And then on the 8th, me and Chris Carnage talked about doing live commentary, but that's not going to be happening because of situations, and he just got back to work because, you know, being out having the COVID-19, and he started back to work, and he's working like basically like 2 weeks straight, and that's the Saturday where he's working and he's not going to be able to go. So pretty much anything after this event here on the 8th, Chris Carnage will be doing commentary with me. George just filled in, but a lot of people gave some good positive feedback to us about the episode 1 commentary, and just learning and doing it with George there, just the second episode was good too that we did. But today doing episode 3 and 4, they haven't heard nothing yet, man. You know, you mentioned Bobby Heenan. Yeah, I went Bobby Heenan on this one, especially episode 4, dude. I went Bobby Heenan. When I do commentary, I'm more like a tweener. I've been sticking it in there. I've been having to take lead on commentary. And just doing it, just kind of trying to find where to go with it and tell the story that's in the ring. It became, after doing these 2 episodes today, it became a little bit more easier and comfortable. But then I said, let me throw a little bit of this in here. That sounds good. Let me throw a little bit of that in here. That sounds good. And yeah, if Bobby Heenan was alive and he heard it, he'd be proud.
Well, and that's what was the hardest thing for me to learn at first. In Ripper and I have talked about this on our podcasts and probably anywhere else, that coming from a sports background of calling live sports, I was very robotic at first, and you're kind of looking for in sports of what's next, and you can't really do that with wrestling, especially doing play-by-play. He can say whatever he wants because, he's the heel, I'm the straight guy. But you can't just go, arm drag, hip toss, whatever. And it took me a little bit because for a one-on-one match, there's 5 guys, depending on how you do it. You've got, the referee, the 2 guys in the ring, and then the 2 guys on commentary. You go a little deeper, you've also got the camera guys and the director, but that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Most don't have that on their budget. So you have 5 guys trying to tell one story, and I said some things where I thought I was putting a match or a character over, and one of the boys didn't like it, and he, let's say politely, it was put to me like, you did us no favors, that needs to come down, blah, blah, blah. And I was pissed off about it at first. But then I listened to it back, and I didn't realize how every word sort of affects it. And a lot of guys will make a mistake, especially on the indie levels, of putting themselves over at all costs. And nobody cares about what funny thing comes out of your mouth. It's about, does that funny thing advance the story that these 3 guys are telling in the ring? And it was such an awkward thing because, you're so used to how Heenan can do it, but he was such a genius where he could work off of what Gorilla would say and then come back, and they were still driving the car forward.
Yeah.
Now, each one of them might have grabbed the wheel and went a little bit sideways, but they understood that they were working towards the same goal. And it's like anything in commentary. If the 2 people, or 3, or however you're doing your booth, aren't on the same page, you can derail what's going on in the ring. And that was a weird lesson for me to learn because I had never called anything as a character before.
Yeah.
So now not only you are, you, but you're a version of you, and your greater good is to put over what these guys are doing. Now, how the hell do I get from here to have you believe this and have it all wrapped together? And the first, I'd say, at least 6 shows that Ripper and I did in post-production were just terrible. He would say something, and I would just laugh. Because in reality, if you're watching and listening at home, it's funny stuff. But I had to eventually just shut him down in my brain and ignore him. And I found out that was the key. You basically no-sell the hell out of it. So now I can tell the story. Well, then it was, all right, I need a little bit of that. But, that's the, will you stop? That's Gorilla Monsoon. Or would you be serious? Or,
Yeah.
whatever. Now, how do I put over a big move? My only thing is, and again, maybe I hear it differently, whatever, but guys on TV now, and for AEW, I don't feel like I know who's driving the car at any point.
Yeah.
There's 3 guys sitting in the driver's seat. Well, that doesn't work. And then when you put Jericho in, he's good at filling in the lines, but why is the extra color guy tossing to break? And maybe that's the nerd in me, or the I feel like it should go a certain way in me thing.
Right.
But it's probably the sports thing. But if you listen to a game and you have Joe Buck and Troy Aikman together, Troy Aikman's not tossing the brakes. And not to say every play-by-play guy is Joe Buck, but just the structure of, all right, if I tune in and it's Vince and Jerry Lawler, I know Vince is driving the car. I know he's in charge. So when something big is happening, I know it's going to be Vince telling me. it makes him more credible. You know what I mean?
Right.
In AEW, there's no one driving the car. And then now this big thing is, in WWE, I heard it the other night, they had Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton and Corey Graves. Well, who's in charge? Is it Tom Phillips? Well, why is Byron jumping all over him then? Maybe that's I'm picking.
Yeah.
I don't like being confused of, well, who's the important voice in the room? And everything is, let's yell big moves now.
Yeah.
Someone doesn't know how to use their voice, and there's a producer saying, this is a big move. Okay, but I don't need you screaming, tope suicida. Okay, you're just being fancy. I understand that it's called that, AAA and, Mexico and everything, but most people aren't going to get it. Just say suicide dive. Sometimes you can be too fancy just to be fancy. And Mauro Ranallo was a big one at that, too.
Yeah.
I mean, someone teach him how to say French words. Because he cannot say coup de grace. Coup de grace. Again, sometimes you can be too smart for your own good, and you can tell if guys are reading off a pad.
Yeah. Right.
These are the things that bother me. I'm a nerd that way, I admit it.
No, man. No. It's that's how you look at it there. That's definitely how you look at it there. And yeah, talking about moves there, one thing I learned about in commentary is if you're calling a match and the match is just not that exciting, you gotta make it exciting, man. Yeah. You gotta make it exciting. The way I look at it, because
they're gonna think it sucks.
What's that?
If you think it sucks, they're gonna think it sucks.
Yeah. So you gotta play that there. One of the matches I did, I'm not gonna mention which one on Knockout TV that I've called, but me and George looked at it and we're like, okay. So George told me what he thought about it, and I said, yeah. I said, but I'll tell you what, we'll approach it like the Dean Ambrose talked about John Moxley did when he was in WWE. Vince McMahon wanted him to walk down and eat a hot dog. By God, he's going to make that hot dog look like the most tastiest hot dog he ever ate. And I looked at George, I said, we got to add mustard to this hot dog and make it look like one fucking good hot dog to eat. And he said,
I'm talking plant. And he said, the dumbass writers gave me that plant. He's like, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with this plant. Yeah. And he's like, the old adage is, I made chicken stout out of chicken shit.
Exactly. And the way, and then when I go back and listen to that there and watch, I mean, when you watch it, you're like, like a fan. I mean, I was like, wow, this is some great shit. But, as someone, they're going to be like, but listen how it's called. It's this, making it exciting, man. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I have too, with War, now that Ripper has kind of managed everybody, Dusty Dillinger had to retire, and him and I have been doing commentary when there's actually live shows, and his approach is very different than Ripper's, and that was a big thing kind of for me. I think we've done 4 shows together, but I've known him for years, and he's wrestled for over 20 years. I mean, Al Snow had a hand in training him. He did training and commentary with Dusty Rhodes. So he has a completely different view and Ripper will be the first to admit, he's not trained, he's not, this, he's not that, he's not an insider, whatever. He's a guy that they can't get rid of. Yeah. So he'll have a different view than what Dusty will. And, Dusty was telling me, he's like, this match sucks. He's like, I don't know what to tell you. And he was very, he didn't hide it, that he had a displeasure for this match. And, okay, that's great and all. You just, okay, take the match off. But I still have to put words to this. And like you said, this is the greatest, every match is the greatest match of all time. Why? Because it's the one you're currently doing.
Yeah.
And that's a hard lesson that I don't think a lot of indie guys on the announcing level have learned.
Yeah. But do you think that's a good way for me to approach that too? I mean, just looking at something is like, but I'm gonna make this look, I mean, sound good. I'm gonna make it sound
I think you
good.
have to, because if you don't, it's a disrespect to the performer, because they can come back and say, hey man, I don't think you're good, or I don't think you did well on my match, and here's why. Now, where a lot of people screw up is there are not a lot of people who can be constructive about it and come to you and say, hey Everett, I don't like how you said this, or if could you put this over a different way next time, or this is what. And it's kind of, for me, again, looking at it, I look at it as a sports lens, like I do. This is not meant as a brag. This is just meant as a flat statement. I do a ridiculous amount of research on characters, just because, and it's stuff you'll never use, but it kind of helps you understand, where they've come from, who they fought, whatever, where they've been, because you never know what you're going to use.
Right.
The age-old thing of, if you, I can't remember who it was attributed to, but it was a famous sports writer, and he said, you're going to do 3 hours for every hour that you're on the air, but you're not going to use any more than like 10% of it. And he's like, honestly, if you get to 10%, you're probably pushing it into the hole. But it's one of those things where you owe the customer, or the paying customer, or the viewer, or however you want to look at it, you owe them that. And if guy A and guy B, sometimes you don't know, guy's sick, mom died, dog died, some guys just don't mesh with their styles. You don't know that the next time he comes out, he's not going to get guy C, and they're going to come out and rip the roof off the place.
Right.
So, I made a mistake on a match, just to kind of bookend that, where I could see a move, and I could see from where I was sitting, we didn't have a monitor, that move came nowhere near connecting. And I said, but the character half sold it. The guy taking the punishment half sold it. And I said, well, I don't know that he got all of that one. And we got done with the match, and Dusty explained to me, he sold it, so your job is to sell that he sold it, not to make the assumption that he didn't get it, because now you're exploiting the fact that they screwed up, that their timing was off.
Right.
Your job is to put it over. He sold it, so your job is to make sure you sell that he sold it, if that makes sense. And I kind of thought, oh, okay, I get that. Well, I owe that now to them, of if he went through with it, now I go through with it. And it's kind of I realize it's a long, weird answer to your question, but
yeah,
I've always kind of been told, every match is not going to be a heavyweight championship match or a tag team title match or whatever, but it's the most important thing you're doing right then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have, the triple cage, double ladder of death coming up in the main. You can plug that, but don't go too far down that hole. It's kind of one of those things where it's not, and there's no class. That's the thing people don't understand.
Yeah.
Wrestlers have classes. I mean, I can go to classes for broadcasting, but there's no wrestling announcer school.
Exactly.
Pick it up and see what you can do. And you can either do it or you can't.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate enough to be, I guess, led into a handful of places that I must be doing something right.
Right. The opportunity was presented itself, and I said to myself, I have never done this. I'd love to do it, at least say I've done it. I'm comfortable in front of a microphone. I've been in front of a microphone doing this right here for 5 years, so I'm pretty comfortable in my skin with talking and with a microphone in front of me, and that's no problem there. But doing this here and learning along the way with someone helping you along the way, of when this spot comes up, in the match during whatever time, then make it sound like it's a big thing. Pick out the moves about 3 of them and make them sound like they're like the biggest thing they do. You know, if it's a clothesline or a drop kick, you know, just make it sound like it was the best, you know, the best thing that happened there. But it's like, yeah, don't make every single move sound like it's like, you know, like devastating or just like, you know, shocking. You just
Right, like an arm drag is not the same as a power bomb.
yeah, it's like arm drag. You don't say, "Oh my God, look at that arm drag." It's like he just did an arm drag, man.
Right, he did do the arm drag off the top through 3 tables. I mean, you know.
Yeah. Don't. I guess you could say, don't be a spot monkey about it. You know, when you call moves. So I learned that because we did a couple of like test run throughs, and after it was done with, I'm like, and like, all right, we're gonna go over and we're gonna do this. Okay,
Right.
went through and did it, and I'm like,
And I use it as a test. If you go to 10 on the very first move of the match, you have nowhere to go. And what I mean by that is if you think of your voice as a normal, like say I'm at a 3 right now, as far as excitement goes. Now, there's a big move. All right, now I've gone to 6. Now, you have to think, let's say that was a pile driver. Okay, so if a pile driver is 6, anything, you know, super kick is 8, or, you know, top rope power bomb is a 10. Okay, now there's your top end. Now, what is anything, is whatever comes next approaching that? No, because that's your top. If you go over that, you know, for like the Young Bucks like to start out matches on the Indies by super kicking the referee.
yeah,
And certain guys will oversell that. Well, okay. Well, it's kind of a pointless spot, but that's a whole thing. Now, when they hit a super kick later on, are you at the same level that you were when it started? Or is the super kick bigger because it's later in the match and you think that's the ending? Like, I don't know how anybody else handles this, but for me personally, I request that if I'm calling a show, that I do not have the match results on my sheet. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of places a lot of guys will give you, and the guys that have worked with Chris Ayers and Tom Williams are really good with giving me a blank sheet that just has the matchups on it.
yeah,
And now they'll tell me if, hey, we're going to do, you know, the promo leads to the main event in the open or whatever. But I actually learned that from Jim Ross of, believe it or not, he has said for years that all those matches that he called in the Attitude Era, he had no idea who was going to win before. Like, now there are exceptions, you know, things you have to be let in on because they're doing certain things, and he's admitted that too, but
yeah,
I don't like knowing them beforehand because I'd like to think, this is me, that I'm smart enough to pick up on the progression of the match, and I understand some of how matches are put together, as far as like the psychology and the composition of it.
right,
You have the heel gets the heat and the baby gets his shine, but you can kind of see if you know or have seen performers enough. You know the big moves, but you can tell kind of the spots are coming up with their emotions. And also, it's kind of the referee thing. Every pin should be the finish. You know, you should treat that like that's the finish. Because if you're just, you know, they do a double down and then he hits a high elbow or whatever, and you're just like 1, 2, like you don't think it's the ending, then they know it's not the ending.
yeah,
So, like, that's an odd thing too. And again, that goes back to there's not a school for wrestling announcing. It's just kind of a learn as you go. Whoever you work with, get some tips.
exactly. And that's what's happened with me there, and just sitting there like the more I do it, and it's the bugs bit me on it, and it's like I like this. This is new water. It's exciting. You're sitting there, and it's like learning to do something else in that business, and I love it, and I just hope, you know, it goes goes on. I can do it as long as I can. I'm allowed to. That's why I'm looking at. While I'm doing it, I'm gonna have fun and learn another aspect of wrestling that I've never thought about in a million years actually doing. I've heard a million times by watching it, but I've never thought myself I'm sitting there in that spot and I'm basically doing what I've heard a million times. And I enjoy it. I enjoy it so far, and I love to learn more and more and just the progression of it and seeing, because looking back, if I look back at what I first started calling and then like down the road, I look back of where I'm at and just the progression and stuff. I'd get a kick out of that there. It's like, wow. It's like,
you will. Trust me.
Yeah, just like podcasting. When you started out podcasting, when I first started out, I was horrible. I was freaking horrible, man. It's just like I was a deer in headlights. And then
But you can do that at any point, though. Like I listened to stuff I did a month ago, and the stuff that I know now about the person or the subject or whatever, and I was like, why would you ask that question? Like, why wouldn't you ask this question? I mean, it's like anything, you can do that.
Yeah. And speaking of podcast, there, I know when I was doing that internet independent wrestling block party there, when I had Ripper on and Jimmy Baxter and David C. Russell there, when you popped up in the chat there, you threw out there that you got Jay West on, man, on one of the Tales from the Indies, man. So what new episodes and stuff that you and Ripper have planned for Tales from the Indies? I know you probably guys been having a lot of free time.
The weird thing is we recorded 4 of them, and I've run all 4 of them now because I've had some personal life stuff that's kind of gotten in the way of him and I hooking up, and he went back to work, so that's a whole thing. Like, real jobs, again, are stupid. But the last one we did, I don't remember the number, but I'm really proud of, and is actually one of my probably 3 favorite episodes that we've done in the, I think it's now 6 years we've done this podcast, is Danny Daniels, who is AAW in Chicago, is a huge indie promotion. I mean, I would put them, for my money, they're probably the best promotion in the Midwest and maybe one of the best indie promotions in the United States. It's just the people that they've had go through there. Turn your TV on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever the hell day wrestling's on, I think every day. And there's a good chance you can see an AAW alumni. I mean, Tyler Black, who is Seth Rollins now, I told that story last time I was on about he went up and down the road at 18 years old. Well, Danny Daniels is the guy that he was with.
Yeah.
Danny Daniels saw something with him, and he's got a tremendous following. Karrion Kross and Scarlett, who are on NXT now. He tells a story, Danny does, about Scarlett coming when she was 18 or 19 years old and wanting to train in Berwyn, which is right outside of Chicago, where they had their training camp for a long time. And he's like, man, I straight up told her, I was like, we're going to beat the hell out of you. And, she's this beautiful blonde, and just, he said, as rough as one of the boys. And he said, look at what she's doing now. Her and Killer Kross, Karrion Kross, whatever you want to call him, they're on NXT, setting the world on fire. You've got so many people. I know Sami Callihan has been through there for years, and he was the AAW champ. Jake Something. A lot of the Impact guys that I talked about, they were in AAW, and it's fascinating to me because it was kind of a personal thing for Danny Daniels to do this, because he does not do podcasts. He's not a big outspoken guy. He doesn't have to. I mean, AAW, again, if you know anything about indie wrestling in the Midwest, it stands on its own. And the Machine Guns have been through there, the Michigan Invasion, Truth Martini, anybody you can name that has been worth anything in the Midwest has come through this promotion for years. The Lucha Brothers were there. They were actually the only place in the United States before they signed to AEW that you could see the Lucha Brothers was at AEW in Chicago. And he puts over the promotion, and I think it was an hour and a half long, and I just sat just fascinated by the conversation. Talks about pretty much, if you can think of someone that's in the wrestling business, he probably tells a story about him. He tells a story about I'm trying to think. Oh, it was about Seth Rollins, about Tyler Black then when he was 18 years old, and he wrestled in Lima, Ohio for War on that tour from Iowa to Buffalo, just to get his name out there. And he, there's a guy named Dean Jablonski. He was in Ohio Valley Wrestling, and he's kind of a War original type guy. And let's just say Danny wasn't real thrilled about how that match was going to be handled, and he let the promoter know. And Danny performed as Danny Daniels for a long time. He was actually a referee for a long time too. He's an amazing guy. He called himself the King of Lima, so we joke about that. Why the hell anybody would want to be the King of Lima, Ohio? But I mean, Ripper and I have known him for years, and Ripper's had his representation. He's had his fights with him, and it was amazing. I put that up there with the Paul London episode, which I'm going to have to re-upload all these old ones. AJ Styles episode are some of my favorites. But we've talked about what we have coming up next. I want to get Aaron Williams, who I think it's a friggin' shame that more people don't know about Aaron Williams. He's amazing, and we talk about him on that podcast, and it's a crime to me that someone has not signed Aaron Williams, whether it's AEW or whoever. The kid is just, he's solid, and he gets gimmicks now. Can wrestle any style you want. I mean, there are so many guys like that, but he's the one I always recommend to people, and I think he's going to be on pretty soon. We're going to try to make his work stop being a bunch of dicks. That's kind of always stymies us.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
That's I like it, man. I like it, and I'm glad that Tales from the Indies is over on Podbeam now, because I can hit my
notification. Screw Tommy Dreamer. Just want to throw that in there.
What's that?
Also, screw Tommy Dreamer. Just want to make sure I get that in there.
Yeah, I think it was you or Ripper to mention that there about.
I make sure to tell that story every time that I'm on anywhere.
Yeah. Ripper feels the same way. Actually, yeah. Both of you guys have mentioned that. Yeah,
Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That is, but man, it's been good, getting you back on here and talking with you, man. I'm definitely gonna have to reach out to Ripper now and get him on, and then just I like hearing Ripper just go to town on something. He'll take one topic, and then he can basically like tell a story about some object and tell like a big story about it, and
now try editing that out of a podcast.
Yeah.
It goes 3 hours if I just let him rant about. We use actually in the older ones. They actually have a segment called Ripper's Rant, where whatever was pissing him off that day. And I don't know if he's told you, but we've been doing this for years. It's sort of a half pet project, half joke of we've been trying to get him another podcast, and I can't bring myself to produce it. He wants to be another a-hole with a podcast is the name of it. So... And it's just the idea is he just comes on for half an hour or whatever we determine and just rants about whatever, and it doesn't even have to be factually correct. So we take like audience questions, and he just like reads Wikipedia or whatever. So I think once we figure out a different name, because I have to be careful with things that I put out with doing sports like in real life that have my name on it.
Yeah.
I think once we negotiate a different name, I think we're finally going to get that done one day.
Yeah. Oh, I know I enjoy it there. I know I would enjoy it, and I enjoy what you guys do with Tales from the Indies, man. I definitely do, and I do appreciate just talking with you guys and just, I mean.
Oh yeah, we got all kinds of stories.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it.
Some of them we told on the podcast a couple times. Some of them we have only told in short parts because, the statute of limitations hasn't crossed on a lot of them yet.
Yeah, definitely.
Some of them because our wives don't want us to tell a story. That's the other part of it. Don't tell that story. That's not funny.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to get you and Ripper on here at the same time.
It's a terrible idea.
Yeah, you're shaking your head. You're already shaking your head at me.
That's a terrible idea.
Oh man, but Michael, love having you on as always, man. I get you on again. We're gonna have to go into more stories like you did on your first appearance, talking about.
Yeah, it's true, Virgil.
I let someone listen to your episode there, a friend of mine, and he's laughing, man. He's like, Virgil. I said, listen, and he was like, wow. I said, there you go.
Those aren't even good Virgil stories. There are far better Virgil stories out there. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
like I just running with a dude, but
I'm gonna have to get you and Ripper on at the same time and just tell Virgil stories. We'll have to do an episode like that. What do you say?
Oh yeah, I think you should just do it. Like you should call up random people. Like hell, I'll give you the numbers, and you call them, and you just do segments of like 5 or 10 minutes a piece, and it's just like one big Screw Virgil episode. Like, what's he gonna do, man? Like bring his table and show up at your house? He can go to Florida. From Pittsburgh.
It's too hot down here right now. I'm telling you.
Oh, how's he gonna... Well, I guess no. Come to think of it, he is in Jacksonville. Probably is hanging out outside Daly's place right now. Maybe he's already in your hood.
90 miles. That's
your
far.
problem.
In my problem. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
He's hours away from me. He ain't my problem.
Oh, damn. Michael, as always, man. Michael McCormick, thank you for coming on Everett Lee's show. Where can people keep up with Tales from the Indies and yourself on social media at?
I got the Twitter. Don't tell Ripper, because apparently that's how the government gets you. At McCormick PvP, and then Facebook.com/Tales from the Indies. Again, the real one, not that made-up Tommy Dreamer one. I think is iTunes. Most of the episodes work, or they will. I don't know. That's pretty much it. Podbean right now has the last 5, but yeah, we're pretty much everywhere. We have our own page, and I try to update that as much as possible.
All right, nice. Since you plugged that there, I'm going to plug this right here. Podcasting Network, your top source for independent podcasting. Head over to podcasting.net for great content and great shows over on the website. Hit them up on Facebook, Podcasting Network. Give them a thumbs up and a follow. Send them a tweet over on Twitter at PodcastingNet. Subscribe to their YouTube channel for video podcast over on Podcasting Network and on Twitch, Podcast City Network. You want more Everett Lee? Then hit me up on Facebook. Give me a thumbs up and a follow, Everett Lee Show. Twitter at the Everett_Lee. Instagram, Everett Lee Show. And audio portions of this podcast and previous release podcast, head over to YouTube, the Everett Lee Show, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Podbean, and iHeartRadio. When I need a logo or graphic design done, I use 3 Count Design. 3 Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography, and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. For more information, head over to facebook.com/3countdesign. That is facebook.com/3countdesign. When I want to kick back a few cold ones with my friends, I head over to City Limits Taproom. City Limits Taproom has a wide selection of TVs to watch your favorite sports, indoor and outdoor seating, and they are pet friendly. City Limits Taproom also has food made fresh to order, and the grilled cheese is excellent. I recommend the grilled cheese and the apple pie cider with fries on the side. You can't go wrong with that, baby. For more information for upcoming events, head over to facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Thank you again for coming on the Everett Lee Show, Michael McCormick. And that is it for this episode of the Everett Lee Show. I will see you all again next time for another episode. Peace.